respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, Nandura Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasdev, the author. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityan bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhagavate bhavati nayashiki. Congratulations his glasses on the Bhagavatam and by rendering all service to the pure devotee. All vice struggles unto the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana-Vidyanandasya Gnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha. I was born with the darkness of ignorance, and as a spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
So today we're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5th, Chapter 2, Verse 1. Verse. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Evam pitari sampravarte tad anushasane vartamana agnidharo. Repeat after me.
Shri Sukha Uvacha. Evam pitari sampravarte tad anushasane vartamana agnidharo.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Jambudvipa Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha.
Anyone try chanting that? Okay. Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Evam pitari sampravate tad anusasane vartamana agnidhora.
Evam pitari sampravate tad anusasane vartamana agnidhora.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Jambudvipa Praja Praja Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Evam pitari sampravate tad anusasane vartamana agnidharo.
Evam pitari sampravate tad anusasane vartamana agnidharo.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Jambudvipa Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Evam pitri sampravritte tadushasane vartaman agnidharo.
Evam pitari sampravate tad anusasane vartamana agnidharo.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Jambudvipa Praja Praja
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Evam pitri sampravate tadushasane vartaman agnidharo.
Evam pitare sampravate tad anusasane vartamane agnidharo.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Jambudvipa Ukasha Praja Auraswa Dharma Veka Samanaha Prayagrohita.
Evam
सम्प्रवते तद् अनुशासने वर्तमान आग्निधरो
एवं पितरे संप्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने वर्तमाने अग्निधरो
जम्बुदीपकस्य प्रजा और स्वधर्म वेक्षमाना
जम
पर्यलोकया
जम्बूद्वीपकसा प्रजा और स्वधर्म वीक्षमाणा पर्यलोकयात्।
श्रीशुकवाच
श्रीशुकवाच
एवं पितरे संप्रवते तद् अनुशासने वर्तमान अग्निधरो
एवं पितरे संप्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने वर्तमानाग्निधरो
जम्बुदीपकस्य प्रजा और स्वधर्म वेक्षमाना पर्यलोकया
जम्बूद्वीपकसा प्रजा
श्रीशुक उवाच
श्रीशुकवाच
एवं पितरि सम्प्रवर्तते तदनुशासन वर्तमानग्निद्रो
एवं पितरे संप्रवते तदनुशासने वर्तमानाग्निधरो
जम्बूद्वीपकसा प्रजा और धर्मविकसमनः पर्यगोपया
जम्बूद्वीपकसा प्रजा
Translation and purport by Shri Sukha,
श्रीशुका
Shri Sukadeva Goswami,
श्रीशुकदेव गोस्वामी
Uvacha, said, Evam,
एवं
thus, Itari,
पितारि
when his father, Sampravate, took to the path of liberation, Tat Anusasana, according to his order, Vartamana, situated, Agnidra, King Agnidra, Jambu Deepa Ukasha, the inhabitants of Jambu Deepa, Praja, citizens, Orasavat, as if they were his sons, Dharma, religious principles, Awake Shamana, strictly observing, Pariyagopayat, completely protected. Shri Sukadeva Goswami continued. After his father, Maharaj Priyavarka, departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidra completely obeyed his orders, strictly observing the principles of religions. He gave full protection to the inhabitants of Jambuti, as if they were his own begotten sons. Following the instructions of his father, Maharaj Priyavrata, Maharaj Agnidhara ruled the inhabitants of Jambudvipa according to the religious principles. These principles are exactly contrary to the modern principles of faithlessness. As clearly stated here, the king protected the citizens the way a father protects his begotten children. How he ruled the citizens is also described here. Dharma Vekshamana, strictly according to the religious principles. It is the duty of the executive head of a state to see that the citizens strictly follow religious principles. The Vedic religious principles begin with Varnashrama Dharma, the duties of the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. Dharma refers to the principles given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first principle of Dharma or religion is to observe the duties of the 4 order as enjoined by the spiritual Supreme Personality of Godhead according to persons' qualities and activities. So society should be divided into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and then again in Brahmacharis, Grahasthas, Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis. These are religious principles, and if it is the duty of the head of the state to see that his citizens strictly follow them. He should not merely act officially. He should be like a father who who is always a well-wisher of his sons. Such a father strictly observes whether his sons are performing their duties, and sometimes he also punishes them. Just contrary to the principles mentioned here, the presidents and chief executives in the age of Kali are simply tax collectors who do not care whether religious principles are observed. Indeed, the chief executives of present day introduce all kinds of sinful activities, especially illicit sex, intoxication, animal killing and gambling. These sinful activities are now very prominently manifested in India. Although 100 years ago, these four principles of sinful lives were strictly prohibited in families of India, they have now been introduced into every Indian family. Therefore, they cannot follow religious principles. In contrast to the principles of the kings of old, the modern state is concerned only with the propaganda of levying taxes and is no longer responsible for the spiritual welfare of the citizens. The state is now careless of religious principles. Srimad Bhagavatam predicts that in Kali Yuga, the government will be entrusted with Dasyu Dharma, which means the occupational duties of rogue and thieves. Modern head of state are rogues and thieves who plunder the citizens instead of giving them protection. Rogues and thieves plunder without regard for law, but in this age of Kali, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the lawmakers themselves plunder the citizens. The next prediction to be fulfilled, which is already coming to pass, is that because of the sinful activities of the citizens and the government, rain will become increasingly scarce. Gradually, there will be complete drought and no production of food grains. People will be reduced to eating flesh and seeds, and many good, spiritually inclined people will have to forsake their homes because they will be too harassed by drought, taxation, and famine. The Krishna conscious movement is the only hope to save the world from such devastation. It is the most scientific and authorized movement for the actual welfare of the whole human society. This is a very, very deep verse. On the external perspective, it's probably going to be pretty simple. But let's just dive into a little bit, and what I will try and also do is talk about a little bit of misconception that comes in when we talk of things as what Srila Prabhupada is talking about in the purport. The first thing to be understood over here is, the king acted as a parent. So, what's the characteristic that we usually describe a parent to be? A parent would be the one who would look after all the children equally with love, right? When we say equally, the word equal has to also to be understood is like when we say equal, it means that all the children would have equal opportunities to perform well and do best in their life. They're going to be loved in their own different ways. But that does not, equal does not mean that every child will be interacted in the same way. Every child would be given the exact same task, would be doing the exact same thing. That is not what it means. A parent knows the quality of the child, like what's their nature, and based on the nature of the child, will they engage with them and engage them into doing certain things and make sure that they are successful in life. Right? So that is the same aspect that a king is supposed to be taking as a position. A king, in this case, is basically if you want to say it from a political perspective, any head of administration is what we can refer as the king. So it could be the president, the prime minister of a country, or an actual king. Irrespective of that, the administrative head who's entitled to administer the entire area is basically whom we are saying as being the king. And a king is actually supposed to be a representative of Krishna. And when I say representative, I also want to add an administrative representative. Because Krishna is the source the maintainer of everything. And when it comes to a subsection, as you know, the organizational hierarchy would go, okay, this is your department, this is your department. You understand that by how different energies of Krishna engage differently to do different purposes. In that perspective, the extension of Krishna's administrative authority is a king, and hence he is a representative of Krishna. What that means is all the citizens need to look at the king as being a representation, taking their authority if they fully represent the teachings and the religious principles that Krishna has set up. Otherwise not. Right? So the kings in the older times were also called as the Rajshri. What's Rajshri? Shri is coming from Rishi. Basically somebody who was knowledged in the scriptures, who would understood the religious principles and would administer, being the Raja, would be the administrator based on the religious principles. That is what is said in the verse also, and what Srila Prabhupada is also emphasizing in that. For a king to be able to do such a service of being able to administer based on religious principles, the different scriptures were provided. Like, you know, we even read this in Bhagavad Gita, that the Bhagavad Gita was first spoken to Manu. Because Manu was the king, from whom everybody else was coming in disciplined succession, with the objective that if the administrative head is the one who's following the religious principles, every citizen will also follow. Now we keep saying the factors that, but for them to be able to follow religious principles, they also have to look up to certain guides to make sure that they are understanding the principles correctly and following. So a Rajshri, or an actual authorized king who is a representative of Krishna, would be the one who would also be approaching Brahmanas for knowledge and guidance, and based on the guidance and knowledge from a Brahmana, will they be doing the administrative, defining policies and doing everything at the day-to-day operations. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see many such examples where kings did that. And based on that, even Parikshit Maharaj is like, what do I do now? He went and asked the Brahmana. So that is the nature of a true administrator, that they will be expert in administrations based on religious principles, but that religious principles they also confirm from authorized sources. They just don't create it themselves. So what is that the religious principles would define as being the responsibility of a king? You have to understand that also. The first and the foremost, what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport is understanding who your citizens are, who the praja is, who is that you are administering. In the today's age, citizens are said to be the humans, right? But in all the living entities are actually citizens, they are all prajas. So in what a king or the administrative head is supposed to be doing is not just taking care of the humankind, but also be taking kind of all other living entities who could be in the form of animals, trees, all of that for the well-being of everybody in totality is what is the duty of a king. It's not just that, okay, you're paying taxes, you're a taxpayer, so I'm going to take care of you so that you continue to pay taxes. That's not the attitude that used to be there before. Even the tiniest of living entities anywhere were also be taken care of. And what does it mean to take care? Take care is to be giving them protection, right? So protection comes in the form of physical protection, that there is no attack happening, nobody is killing them, nobody is troubling them, and so on and so forth. That's one form of attack. The other form of protection that was given by the king was protection from sinful activities and from spiritual fall down, or as Srila Prabhupada in the lot of terms calls it, spiritual suicide. So if a living entity who is a citizen of such a king, they would be given all facilities to be able to elevate themselves in the path of Krishna consciousness, so that they can slowly understand, elevate themselves to human form of life, and those who are in the human form of life can take that as a point to be able to come up and get out of the cycle of birth and death. That is how protection was actually given. So everything that was done as part of the religious principles that we would always see in the Vedic times was based on these opportunity to be able to elevate themselves in consciousness and come to a point of being able to completely surrender themselves to Krishna and hence get out of the cycle of torment. That was the simple, most important principle that was always followed. And so, there is what happens basically if such principles are not followed, as it's happening today. We can see it clearly around us. There is chaos completely. Chaos in what form? Chaos in the form of all the war activities happening, people killing each other. Only there is administration is being done in such a way that it only benefits a certain class and not everybody else. So, okay, there are policies being created that benefits a certain section of the taxpayers because, again, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that in the purport also that, in today's date, when we are doing all this democracy and everything and talking about it, the people's government, but it's actually not people's government because not every people or every person is actually being taken care of by this government. They're only taking care of their vote banks. They want to make sure that the vote bank is satisfied so that they're able to get elected and then they're able to, do their own thing for their own benefit. That's the objective. It's not people's government, it's just the vote bank's government. So if they would just play on policies and politics just to please the people in such a way that they're able to give the vote. That's all that is happening today. And the consequence of that is basically, as I said, all the wars and all the discrimination that happens is basically nothing but coming in from there. Discrimination in what sense? Discrimination in the sense of, all the different racist approaches that comes in. One race discriminated against the another. One gender discriminated against the another. And so on and so forth. We can see that today's administration has done nothing but divided in different categories. And because of that differentiation of categories, all people are doing is just fighting. Oh, I want to fight for my right, I want to fight for my right, and everybody is just talking about their rights and not as a totality. And what are they talking about? Discrimination on the basis of is purely based on the body. And the extent of this bodily identification of things has gone to the extent that now in today's day and age, there is this identity crisis that has come. Long ago, there was a very nice Sunday feast lecture that was on the topic of identity crisis. What is identity crisis? At the root level, the identity crisis is to identify ourselves with the body. And because we are identifying ourselves with the body, we come up with this identity crisis of identifying ourselves as male or female, or now even going beyond that, I have a male body, but I'm identifying myself as a female. It's gone even further where, we see all these news articles coming, people identifying themselves as animals, and this is identity crisis. People don't know what they are. They don't know what their identity is truly. And because of all of that reason, all that is happening is chaos around. Everybody's fighting with each other. Everybody's saying, I am higher, you are, all those different factors coming in because of it saying, this is mine, and everybody is fighting. That is all that is happening continuously. So that is the chaos. So what's the solution for it? The solution is, what Srila Prabhupada is clearly talking about, is the Varnashram Dharma. Following of the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. What are those? When we say the 4 Varnas, we're talking about the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Right? Now, there was this line very beautifully mentioned over here, we should pick this up. Srila Prabhupada is very clearly talking about that according to people's qualities and activities, society should be divided into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra.
That's also category.
Yes.
These are also categories.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I'm going to come to that one. Okay. So we are categorizing the society. Absolutely correct. Like we trying to categorize society even in the modern age, and we're calling that chaos. Why is this categorization different? Because this categorization is purely based on quality and the nature of the person. And it is not intended to divide or create differences between people, but in order to be able to facilitate, if it's done purely and correctly, and I'll come to that, that's one of the points that I'm going to bring up. If it is done properly and correctly, then it is actually meant to elevate society. So it's like, you know, in a classroom, we have to differentiate between a teacher versus a student. In a school, we have to differentiate between a first grader versus a ninth grader, and so on and so forth. Why is that? Are we discriminating between people? No. We are understanding where they are currently in their entire elevation process, and based on that, we are engaging. So, what is the difference between a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra? It's the nature, the quality that they are coming in. So, a Shudra is a person who is not wanting to follow any religious principle and by nature is unclean. A Brahmana is one who understands the religious principles, follows it, teaches it to others, and by nature is clean, for example. Right? So this discrimination is needed because now we have identified that these are the Brahmanas who are the ones who know the religious principles, can teach in and guide the society, so we take them as being the guiding principles of the society. So they are the ones who are guiding the king, they are the ones who are guiding the entire citizens in general. But then, important factor we said was that this is all based on the quality that we are presenting right now. It's not based on birth. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam also so many different examples that somebody who was a Brahmana started acting as a Kshatriya, or Shudra, for example. And there are so many other examples where a Kshatriya would start acting as a Brahmana and so on and so forth. So it's not a fixed, hard-lined thing. It is based on saying, what, like in offices also, right? What is the role that you are playing today? Today, are you playing the role of, like, for those in the IT including, am I a developer versus am I a tester? Am I a designer or am I, in office administration or am I HR? That's just categorization. It's not a divide. It's just an organization structure to ensure everybody knows what is the role that they have to play, and they can keep moving in different varnas if they are using the process to elevate themselves gradually.
And Shudras have identity crisis.
Shudras would have identity crisis because they are very deeply into bodily consciousness. Yes.
How about Vaishyas? They are also into money.
They are into money, yes, they are into mode of passion. But so if they start understanding at a certain point that their activity that they are doing has to be done for Krishna, then they start coming into the stage of becoming Brahmanas. Right? But on top of all of these four varnashram is also the Vaishnavas. So when we train ourselves to be the devotee of the Lord, completely surrendered to Him, and get trained in that ways, then we are Vaishnavas and we are able to perform the activities of any of these. And then we are, the Vaishnava is actually above all of this, is what I'm trying to control, right? So the four varnas, we're just talking about them, it's not based on birth, it's just categorization of society based on their different nature, right? Let's understand very quickly, like, how very easily can we identify a Brahmana versus Shudra. I really love this example that was given once. We said a Brahmana is one who, even if they go to a dirty place, will make it clean. I can't just forget this example, I keep saying this again and again. But a Brahmana is one who will go to a dirty place also and make it clean. A Shudra is the one who will go to a clean place also and make it dirty. Right? So, Brahmana, for example, just taking a crude example, it's not literal sense, but just as an example. You're going to a picnic table, sitting down over there, you see it's a little dirty. A Brahmana mentality would be the one who will first clean it, put all the nice prasad over there, and eat nicely and leave it clean. A Shudra, on the other hand, will go to the same picnic table, look at it, it's clean, eat over there, mess up the thing, leave it dirty, and come back. That's just one very tiny way. It's not a defined rule by itself, but just a tiny way in which you're able to differentiate a Brahmana versus a Shudra. So that is like a Shudra basically now means your mentality is dirty. You have to go through the purification, cleanliness process before you come to the point of understanding what cleanliness is and act accordingly. You had a question?
Yeah, once it was mentioned, several times, Shudras those who do the small stuff, who are not specialized into something specifically.
Right.
But there's like helpers, cleaning.
That's not correct. That's not correct. I'll explain you where that is coming from, and thank you for bringing that up. So what had happened was, and this misconception I want to clear that up, my friend. When we say Varnashrama Dharma is not defined by occupation. It's the other way around, if we have to say it that way. Because of, if you are a Brahmana, you will do things such as preaching, deity worship. If you are a Shudra, you will assist in things such as cleaning up the temple in order to be able to create an environment for the preaching to happen nicely. So everybody needs to be engaged in the service of the Lord. But here's the thing, what happened in the past, when it was colonization period in India, what they started doing was, and this is from where the term caste system started coming in. It is not a term which is Vedic. Caste system, the way it started coming in, is these Britishers, in order to go by their policy of divide and rule, they started doing all these, on the name of doing surveys of how many people are there, etc., etc. They started categorizing people. And that categorization is what we started, and they used the term jati from the local terminology and started calling it caste, and started putting in labels on everybody. And that, the original point was an occupational duty, that is like a family business, running business. Okay, you are who? Okay, you're a barber, or you're something else. So that is how people were just doing their family business, giving on the skill set from one generation to another and another. But they created a label around it with a caste associated to it. And then, in order to, first they started doing that, and then in order to divide the society, they started creating administrative policies around these castes. Where in a certain case, like the Land Revenue Act, for example, okay, Damidars have to be favored in that. And in the law and order system also, there were certain castes, as they call it, were favored and the other were not favored. Creating a divide between the society where now we are saying, oh, I am higher, I am lower, which was not the original conception. This was created by the Britishers in order to divide the society and create this system where they were able to administer. They said, okay, at top, we'll create this hierarchy, we're going to control the top, we're going to control the rest for us. That is what they ended up doing. It is not a Vedic system. The Vedic system is, as I said, you are a Brahmana, you are clean, you can go into the temple and do deity worship. Versus you are a Shudra who is not clean enough, you don't maintain that cleanliness himself, you're not following the regulative principle. No, you cannot do the deity worship, but you can come and clean the temple. Everybody is engaged in the service of the Lord. Doors were never shut for anybody. But it was, yes, there was a discrimination of who can do what service based on their level of, I'm calling it cleanliness, but it's conscious.
Those who have been cleanliness, they are into more of ignorance and
Yes. Shudras, ignorance, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas in the mode of passion, and Brahmanas in the mode of goodness. That's how it is. So it's based on that consciousness that you're defining who is where. Right? So,
Well, I had a follow-up on that.
yes.
How do we identify who we are and where we belong? Is there like a...
So, as I said, it's your level of cleanliness in your mind and body. That is what is reflecting in that sense, right? So, that's one parameter in which you can easily say. The other way is your level of understanding of spirituality and the understanding of difference between a body and a soul. Let's say, for example, I'll come to that point first. If I am identifying somebody, or you're a female, you're a male, I'm looking at the body. But if I'm identifying, that's the lower stage of knowledge and understanding. Versus if I'm saying living entity, soul, living entity, soul. With the male body, with the female. Okay, fine. But living entity, living entity. So that is a higher consciousness. Right? So if we look at everything aligns in so well. If we understand in the yoga ladder system also, you can see it in that way also if you want to. A Shudra is one who does not understand anything at all, no matter what. A Vaishya at least understands the perspective that things have, there is a Supreme Personality of God who exists, and we have to engage in doing things so that we can do something for it. Right? There is I've done my business, I've earned X number of money, and out of that I want to give some donation. You know, if you're somewhere over there, then it's not an exact definition that you get anywhere in scripture, but I'm just kind of saying an introspective way if you want to look at it that way. So, okay, if you're somewhere there, maybe then you're a Vaishya. But then you start to understand, oh, every living entity is a part and parcel of the Lord, and there's this Samadarshana that has come in, and now I have to give protection, and I have to make sure that I'm helping everybody elevate themselves in Krishna consciousness. Okay, you can probably say now you're fit for an administrative class being Vaishya. And similarly, you now have a very good knowledge about the Vedic scriptures, you're able to guide people, you're able to teach people, so you don't call your brother. So it's just like that. So there are very clear-cut principles that we can see, such as following of regulated principles, how it's your sadhana, etc. Based on that, understanding can easily be done. Somebody who's in a category of being a Brahmana can very easily understand based on that. Right? So, how do we make sure that this happens in the society? This happens in the society by making sure that we are also following the 4 ashramas. What are the 4 ashramas? It's the brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. So who's a brahmachari? A brahmachari is one who is, like we say, a bachelor, but is under training. A student life is a brahmachari life. One who is going through the training to be able to get the knowledge and understanding, learning to be clean, learning to get the right consciousness, learning everything there, to be able to understand the objective of human form of life. That person is a brahmachari, right? Once you have come to that stage of understanding that, you can enter the grahastha ashram where you are now entering into a married life to make sure that you are elevating into Krishna consciousness. But as a grahastha, there's a huge responsibility that comes in, which is to take care of the other 3 ashramas. So a grahastha needs to take care of a brahmachari also, needs to take care of vanaprasthas and sannyasis also. So how do we take care of that? Because we're giving donations, because they are the ones who are engaged into day-to-day worldly affairs. They are the ones who are earning money and are able to get the resources which can be given out as donations for the other ashramas to exist. So similarly, sannyasi, renounced order, vanaprasthas, which is again a renounced order in terms of going into the forest and practicing serious Krishna consciousness over there. So all of these, when it was done properly, so what is starting to happen again in these days and age? Kids going to the school and over there, don't call me old for saying this, but when we used to go to school, we would say all the love affairs, etc. used to start when you go for graduation. School life was clean. Then the next couple of years later, it would start, all of that would start when you enter grade 11. And now it started getting preponed. So all of these bodily consciousness activity is not something that is recommended for a brahmachari. Why? Because you have to understand the difference between body and soul, and you have to understand living as a soul and not the body. So that you have to go through that training, you have to go through that austerities where you're not living a life of luxury and getting spoiled, because you go through a hardship to train yourself to understand the value of everything. So that is a brahmachari life where you're getting that full training. So in its in the Gurukul systems, like the brahmachari would go through a lot of strict things. They're sleeping on a simple mat. They're not getting any, they're not using heavy resources. Even for that matter, when we're looking at all of these nice brahmacharis in different temples, in ISKCON also, a lot of them go through austerities such as, no, we're not going to eat anything which is opulent in the nature. We're going to try and keep ourselves simple. Again, those are different ways. Not again hard and fast rule, but there are different ways in which during the training period as a brahmachari, we try and train ourselves to go through the hardship, to be able to cleanse ourselves so that we are able to make sure our needs is less. And we are able to focus our entire life in actually doing Krishna conscious activity. Otherwise, we're like, oh, I want this also, I want this also, I want this also, I want money, so I will do 2 jobs, I will do this, I will do this. And then you're completely, absorbed in all of this, and these needs will never get satisfied. So as a brahmachari, the training is reduce the needs, be able to live with the minimums while spiritually increasing your consciousness so that you're able to live actually blissful and not just trying to be blissful. Right? So that training is which is coming in through the four ashramas. So the four varnas and the four ashramas, they are all very, very, very important. And we just clarified the fact that the caste system and everything is not what these ashramas mean. It's actually supposed to be on a consciousness level such that everybody is able to elevate themselves. So once I took the example of Britishers, for example, of how they divided the entire society and created chaos, and so is the current leadership also doing it. So all of these people is what we call as the Devani leadership. Now, they are demons in the sense that even, for example, when you read the Krishna book or in Bhagavatam, when we're reading about Kamsa, for example, or Ravana, for example, that is what these people used to be doing. The difference now is, of course, the fact Srila Prabhupada talks about that the fools electing fools. Basically, it's the fools who are electing a fool so that they're able to do foolishness. Right? So, in the old time, there was this, there's this, out of all the, so there is the king of the planet Earth, and then there were other kings, and one of these kings is going rogue, so he's the one who will kill and replaces the nice good king to maintain the hierarchy system. But in today's day and age where everybody is in that demoniac mentality, that's not how it's going to work. That the purification process that we have to go in order to clean the society is the process of Krishna consciousness only. So what we are supposed to be doing is actually elevating ourselves in Krishna consciousness, understanding the difference between being of a lower consciousness and being higher consciousness, elevating ourselves to that level, and then teaching the leaderships that skills and the society so that everybody is able to do the right thing. We're troubled with so many different things today, right? We're troubled with things such as pollutions and this dirt here, that trouble here. And all of that is nothing but an external manifestation of what is in our own heart. So if we are cleaning out, we have to solve the problems from the root itself. We cannot just keep going in and keep picking up trash out there and think that is going to keep the world clean. Why is it outside? Because people inside their heart are dirty. They don't realize the importance of cleanliness. They're having a Shudra mentality and hence they're throwing it. Let's kill that Shudra mentality. First within ourselves and then with the outside, and then automatically everything is going to be clean. Everything is going to become harmonious. So, Srila Prabhupada talks about this very nice thing is, again, difference between being educated versus being trained. Our education system today is just training. What is it training? Okay, let's do, go learn maths, go learn this, go learn this, so that you're able to do things in the job and do this. They're just training themselves like dogs to do certain things. That's an animalistic life. What is education? And education actually means one which changes your consciousness. If you are educated, you are not the one who's going to be going around bullying people or mistreating people. You might be having a PhD degree, but if you misbehave people or don't follow the very basic principles of looking at everybody with love and respect, you are well trained, not educated. So those aspects is something that we need to understand. We have to look at ourselves, are we getting trained or are we getting educated? Training is needed to be able to do things. But education is more important to make sure how to use the training. Right? So, again, because the verse talked about a parent, one example of dilemma that comes in is going to be, then what do we do? Like, for example, I have a 6-year-old, okay? Now, a 6-year-old, you want to try and explain about things such as creation of the world. Right? It's in their curriculum. You're going to be reading about the Big Bang theories and all of those godless philosophies that exist out there. But then from the Vedic scriptures, we know what is the higher consciousness and the higher understanding of things. So what do? As part of her training, I'm going to tell her the Big Bang theory, and then as part of her education, I'm going to tell her the Vedic version, and then she can clearly understand these material scientists, out of their own material senses and speculation, they just try to talk about and explain not understanding the fact that an explosion needs some material which is explosives and some energy which is packed for the explosion to happen. Where is that coming from? They don't understand. Oh, we understand from the Vedas that the universes, all the universes come out from the core of Vishnu, and that's how they come into the creation. There's the Mahatattva, then it expanded into the Panchatattva, and so on, creation happened. Oh, I think these guys are fools. Because they're considering the universe coming out of the force of the Vishnu as the explosion something, and the expansion of Mahatattva to the Panchatattva, and then from there the creation happening, being done by Brahma, as an explosion which is expanding and creating something. Oh, then cakes, that's okay. Right? So you're able to balance out that way. So you're trained and you're educated. It's not that you have to leave one of them. You can create a balance by the amazing set of knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given. This is just one example, and we can take that up as in any ways. So what are we supposed to be doing to be able to do this, to be able to achieve this? We need a strong sadhana to cleanse ourselves, to bring ourselves up to the level of being a Brahmana. And being a Brahmana, then we are able to help others go through the cleanliness process and elevate everybody to that stage and help living entities in its true sense. Not just superficially by saying, okay, I'm going to take care of my country, I'm going to take care of my community. We can keep doing a zillion things, but we'll never be able to come to the point of actually having equality in the society, because the equality actually lies on the spiritual plan. No matter what we try and say, okay, let's not differentiate based on genders, let's not differentiate based on race, let's not differentiate something, we'll start differentiating on race. Or something else, because that's the mentality. How do I make myself look better than the other? How do I make myself superior than the other? Then you look at what is the difference. Okay, you are A, I am B, B superior. Just because our mentality is to try and do that, I am the greatest. That's why this divide exists. But if we cleanse ourselves through a strong sadhana system, then we come to the Samadarshana stage where we are equally looking at everybody as a living entity. Oh, living entity, can you please help me in my Krishna consciousness? I'll help you in yours. Let's do it all together. Let's all serve the Lord, which is our constitutional position. When we are doing that, that is when we actually come up to the point of attaining peace. What's the peace formula given in the Bhagavad Gita? Bhoktaram yajatapasam sarvalokamahesharam suvidam sarvabhoktaram yamamam shanti vrichyati. Shanti vrichyati. We get shanti, peace. Only and only when you understand Bhoktaram yajatapasam sarvalokamahesharam, who is that? Krishna. Who is the benefactor of everything? It's Krishna. Where is everything coming from? It's coming from Krishna. Who is the best well-wisher of everybody? It's the Krishna. Once we understand that, that is when we are peaceful. And we get the consciousness to be able to give this information to others and make them peaceful. This again very nice example. I might have probably said that a zillion times, but it's worth being told a zillion more times. Without Krishna, everything that we will do is zero. We get good degrees, zero. We get beautiful bodies, zero. We get strength, strong, healthy body, zero. We get all these degrees, money, wealth, fame, whatever, zero, 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 zero. The only thing, even if you're putting it back to back, all of these zeros, the value is still zero. The only way it can actually become valuable is to add a number in the front, which is 1, a Krishna. So all your zeros in a row is zero, till when that 1 Krishna comes in the front as the first principle. And now it's 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now everything has value. So the only principle we are supposed to be following is to add Krishna in our life first, give it to others, so that this entire society can be peaceful and we can get back to the stage of higher consciousness and attaining the ultimate objective of human form of life. Thank you. Any questions, comments, challenges, disagreements?